A lobster is pulled from the sea, claws bound, fate sealed. In hours it will leave its icy home, packed tightly with dozens more, destined for a restaurant thousands of miles away. But survival isn't guaranteed. Too much heat and it suffocates. Too much movement and it weakens. A single delay can wipe out an entire shipment. So how do suppliers keep them alive across continents? The answer lies in a delicate balance of tradition, technology, and precision. Beneath the cold Atlantic waves, thousands of wire mesh traps rest on the seafloor, their wooden frames and steel reinforcements weathered by salt and time. Each one is baited with fish heads, the scent drifting through the currents, luring an unsuspecting lobster inside. It's a patient game. A lobster, cautious by nature, approaches the opening, its long antennae sweeping the edges before it finally steps forward. Once inside, there's no escape. The funnel-shaped entrance prevents retreat, and by the time the sun rises over the horizon, the trap is already on its way to the surface. Fishermen pull up hundreds of these traps in a single morning, working swiftly as winches whine under the strain. Each haul is a gamble. Some traps are empty, others hold a flurry of movement as lobsters scramble against one another. The sorting begins immediately. A quick flick of the wrist, and a measuring gauge is placed against the lobster's shell. If it's too small, it's tossed back into the water, disappearing into the depths with a flick of its tail. If it's carrying eggs, it's not just released, it's marked with a tiny notch on its tail, a sign to future fishermen that this lobster is a breeder and should never be caught again. The ones that pass inspection are handled carefully. A stressed lobster is a weak lobster, and weakness before transport can mean disaster. Too much handling causes their bodies to flood with lactic acid, throwing off their internal balance. If this happens, their chances of survival plummet. To prevent it, fishermen work efficiently, placing each lobster into seawater tanks where the temperature is just above freezing. The cold slows their metabolism, conserving energy, reducing movement, and keeping them in peak condition. Their claws, powerful enough to snap a finger, are bound with rubber bands, not for the fishermen's safety, but to prevent them from injuring each other in the tight confines of their next destination. From the dock, the lobsters move quickly to holding facilities, massive warehouses where thousands of them are stored in long, oxygenated tanks. Here, the water is continuously filtered, mimicking the oxygen levels and salinity of the open ocean. Each lobster is kept under close watch. Any sign of weakness, a sluggish movement, a shell that appears too soft, means immediate removal. A dead lobster in a tank releases ammonia and other compounds that can trigger a chain reaction, compromising the health of the others. Timing is everything. Unlike most seafood, lobsters are rarely frozen before sale. Freezing destroys their delicate texture, turning the prized meat into something rubbery and bland. Live transport is the only option, but it's a race against time. Lobsters can survive out of water for extended periods, but only under precise conditions. Too much dryness and they dehydrate. Too much warmth and they suffocate. Their gills, designed to extract oxygen from water, can pull it from the air, but only if kept damp and cool. This is where centuries of tradition meet modern innovation. Before shipping, each lobster is carefully packed into specially designed crates. Wooden slats or ventilated plastic keep air circulating, while moist seaweed, damp newspaper, or gel packs maintain just the right level of humidity. Ice packs are often placed inside, keeping the temperature near freezing without actually freezing the lobster itself. In this state, lobsters enter a form of hibernation, barely moving, conserving energy, and staying alive for days. At this stage, every decision matters. Shipping a lobster isn't as simple as loading a crate onto a truck. The best exporters calculate everything down to the smallest detail: shipment routes, potential delays, even altitude changes. Lobsters are highly sensitive to pressure. At high elevations, like in an airplane cargo hold, lower oxygen levels can cause stress. This is why air shipments require careful monitoring, with oxygen-enriched environments ensuring they survive the flight. Even on land, transportation must be handled with precision. Refrigerated trucks maintain stable temperatures, but there's another challenge: vibration. A bumpy ride can jostle the lobsters too much, increasing their movement, forcing them to burn through stored energy, and weakening them before they ever reach their destination. The most advanced transport systems use cushioned crates or vibration-dampening suspensions to minimize stress. All of this effort is for a single goal: making sure the lobsters arrive alive, strong, and in prime condition. The difference between a lobster that has traveled well and one that hasn't is obvious. A healthy lobster will raise its claws in defense when handled, its tail curling with strength. A weakened lobster will be sluggish, its movements slow and uncoordinated. Some won't make it at all. Mortality rates vary, but a poorly managed shipment can mean losses of 10% or more, thousands of dollars gone before the lobsters even reach their final destination. For restaurants and seafood markets, the final stage is just as crucial. Live tanks are used to keep lobsters fresh before sale, but even here, stress is a constant factor. A lobster that has been handled too much, kept in poor conditions, or exposed to too much light will deteriorate quickly. The best seafood suppliers understand this, using low-light environments and minimal handling to keep their stock in the best possible shape. Every lobster that survives this process carries with it the weight of an industry built on precision, patience, and centuries of expertise. From the hands of the fishermen who first pull it from the water to the final moments before it reaches the kitchen, it has passed through an intricate system designed to overcome nature's challenges. The next step will determine whether all of this effort pays off, because no matter how well it's been handled, the biggest test still lies ahead. The moment a lobster leaves the holding tanks, the countdown begins. Every hour out of water increases the risk of dehydration, stress, and death. Unlike fish packed in ice, lobsters require a delicate balance of cold, moisture, and oxygen. The first step is precise packaging. Workers carefully arrange them in specially designed crates, ensuring minimal movement. Too much jostling burns their energy reserves, weakening them before they arrive. The crates themselves are engineered for survival, ventilated to allow airflow, lined with damp seaweed or moistened paper to keep gills hydrated, and cooled with frozen gel packs. The temperature must stay just above freezing, slowing their metabolism without causing shock. If they get too warm, they begin suffocating. If they freeze, their flesh turns mushy, rendering them worthless. Once packed, they're loaded onto refrigerated trucks, where temperature and humidity are carefully controlled. Even here, vibration remains a challenge. Constant shaking can stress the lobsters, forcing them to move and use up vital energy. Some suppliers go as far as using shock-absorbing crates or specialized suspension systems to minimize the impact of road travel. From here, the lobsters head to major distribution hubs, often near international airports. Speed is crucial. The faster they reach their final destination, the higher their survival rate. Air transport is where the process becomes even more intricate. Unlike frozen seafood, which can be stacked in bulk, live lobsters require constant oxygen exchange. In a cargo hold, air pressure is lower, which can accelerate stress. To counter this, shipments are placed in temperature-controlled, oxygen-enriched containers, mimicking conditions close to sea level. Airlines specializing in live seafood transport follow strict protocols, ensuring that even minor delays don't turn into mass die-offs. A single setback, an unexpected layover, a customs holdup, or improper handling can result in catastrophic losses. Many of the world's lobsters are headed for Asia, particularly China, where demand for live seafood is at its peak. From Boston to Shanghai, a lobster may travel over 7,000 miles in less than 48 hours. The moment it lands, another round of inspections begins. Customs officers check for signs of weakness or contamination. If they pass, the crates are quickly transported to seafood markets or high-end restaurants. Some go directly into large, aerated tanks where they recover from the stress of transit before being sold. Others go straight to the kitchen where their fate is sealed within hours. The entire system is built on precision. Every degree of temperature, every percentage of humidity, every second in transit matters. The difference between a perfectly transported lobster and one that arrives weak or dead isn't just about logistics. It's the fine line between profit and loss in a high-stakes global industry. Yet even with these advancements, challenges remain. Climate change is altering ocean temperatures, impacting lobster populations. Rising fuel costs and supply chain disruptions continue to threaten the industry. And as demand grows, new innovations are needed to ensure that lobsters survive longer, travel farther, and arrive fresher than ever before. Keeping lobsters alive across continents has always been a delicate challenge, but modern innovations are redefining what's possible. In the past, survival depended almost entirely on speed: catch, pack, and ship as fast as possible. The longer a lobster was out of the water, the lower its chances of arriving strong. Today, advances in technology, biology, and logistics are extending those survival times, improving efficiency, and even reshaping the industry's environmental footprint. One of the most remarkable breakthroughs is hyperbaric storage, a technique that uses controlled pressure to mimic deep-sea conditions. Lobsters are creatures of the ocean floor, accustomed to immense pressure. When removed from that environment, their bodies undergo subtle but significant changes affecting metabolism, stress levels, and energy reserves. Hyperbaric storage places them in a state of near hibernation, slowing their biological functions without harming their cells. This means they can be held for weeks instead of days, reducing the urgency of immediate transport. Suppliers using this method have seen survival rates improve dramatically, ensuring that lobsters arrive at their destinations with greater strength and freshness. This technology is particularly valuable when disruptions occur. Bad weather, flight cancellations, or customs delays that would otherwise be catastrophic for a shipment can now be managed with more flexibility. Oxygen-infused packaging is another advancement reshaping the way lobsters are shipped. Traditional crates, though effective, rely on air circulation through ventilation holes and damp materials like seaweed or wet paper to maintain hydration. But oxygen levels fluctuate, and small environmental changes can have drastic effects. The latest designs incorporate controlled oxygen release, ensuring a steady supply while also preventing excessive exposure, which can overexcite a lobster's system. Some packaging systems go even further, using carbon dioxide monitoring to detect stress responses. If oxygen levels dip too low, an automated release mechanism restores balance. This level of precision dramatically improves survival rates, especially for shipments that spend extended periods in transit. Beyond packaging and storage, sustainability is driving fundamental changes in how lobsters are sourced. Wild-caught lobsters have always dominated the market, but with demand rising and climate change affecting populations, aquaculture is becoming an increasingly serious focus. Unlike fish farming, which has been refined over decades, lobster aquaculture presents unique challenges. Lobsters grow slowly, take years to reach market size, and are highly territorial, often attacking one another when confined. Researchers are developing solutions, from specialized tank designs that provide individual compartments for young lobsters to controlled feeding systems that optimize growth without overcrowding. Some experimental hatcheries have successfully raised lobsters from eggs to maturity, proving that large-scale farming could one day supplement wild stocks. In Canada and Norway, efforts to develop land-based recirculating aquaculture systems are making steady progress, though the industry is still far from full-scale implementation. If successful, farm-raised lobsters could reduce pressure on wild populations, stabilize supply chains, and even allow for more precise quality control. Even the way lobsters are transported is evolving. Historically, air freight has been the dominant method due to speed, but as sustainability concerns grow, alternatives are being explored. Some seafood companies are investing in advanced sea freight systems, using refrigerated, oxygen-regulated shipping containers to transport lobsters more slowly, but with greater energy efficiency. These containers maintain stable conditions, providing a controlled environment comparable to aerated tanks in seafood markets. While the longer travel time requires lobsters to remain viable for extended periods, the cost savings and environmental benefits could make this approach more attractive in the long run. With airlines facing increasing scrutiny over carbon emissions, shifting even a fraction of lobster exports to sea freight could have a significant impact. The industry's approach to logistics is also becoming more data-driven. Real-time monitoring systems now track shipments down to individual crates, measuring temperature, humidity, oxygen levels, and even vibrations during transport. A lobster that remains too active during transit burns through its energy reserves quickly, arriving weak or dead. New cushioning techniques and vibration-dampening technologies are reducing stress, ensuring that lobsters remain as motionless as possible without being harmed. In some cases, transport routes are being adjusted based on this data. If a particular flight path results in frequent delays, suppliers can reroute shipments through more reliable hubs, reducing risk and increasing efficiency. Beyond logistics, consumer expectations are also shaping the future of lobster transport. Many high-end restaurants and seafood markets now demand traceability, requiring detailed records of where and how each lobster was caught and transported. Some companies have adopted blockchain technology to provide transparent supply chain tracking, allowing buyers to verify that their lobsters were sourced sustainably and handled properly throughout the process. This level of detail not only builds trust but also ensures that best practices are followed at every stage. As the demand for lobster continues to grow, the industry faces new challenges that will require even greater innovation. Climate change is shifting ocean temperatures and altering migration patterns, forcing fishermen to adapt. Rising fuel costs and geopolitical uncertainties are impacting global shipping networks, making efficiency more critical than ever. With these pressures mounting, the future of lobster transport will depend not just on keeping lobsters alive longer, but on rethinking how they are sourced, shipped, and consumed in a world that is rapidly changing. A lobster pulled from the sea is never guaranteed to survive the distance. Every second, every breath, every degree of temperature matters. Fishermen, suppliers, and transporters work in perfect sync, using cold storage, oxygen control, and real-time tracking to keep them alive across continents. Yet, rising costs, climate shifts, and sustainability challenges push the industry to adapt. What seems like a simple dish is the result of an immense, unseen effort where precision decides whether it lives or is lost.